All about business.
Welcome to Press Start Gaming.
Wrong podcast.
I know.
Welcome. I would say
Wait, there's
it might be
all of us.
I'm not actually in the recording.
Oh, okay.
I go along and do my own thing.
Oh.
Y'all
He
might
doesn't
want
wanna
to
be with us.
mute Slack though, because last time I'm pretty sure I heard the voice of God binging on a couple of y'all's computers.
Only
I don't
he does.
Only David has to. Okay, that's what it is.
Yeah.
David, mute Slack so the voice of God doesn't interrupt.
Voice of God.
Or just not be there for the. Thank you, Slackbot.
For fuck's sake. Last time Jeff did this, he bailed. And the thing still reminded us.
Yeah.
I was like, hey, look, there's that notification. Michael.
David, are you actually there?
Yeah, why?
Okay, you're just completely silent,
Well,
so.
Slackbot doesn't hear our thanks in TeamSpeak.
He'll rebel.
Did somebody say something in TeamSpeak? No. Oh.
Alright, let's do this. Todd, mute your microphone.
Yeah.
Todd.
What? I muted my microphone like you told me.
That was weird.
Yeah, but your
But the light's lit.
TeamSpeak light is still on.
Because he's on continuous transmission.
Oh, alright.
He's just
Fair
continuously
enough.
transmitting
Fair
nothing.
Enough. Alright. Waste of bandwidth. Alright. Wait, who's doing the news?
I thought David.
Yeah, David could do the news. Alright, fuck it.
If David's there.
He's here.
Hello, you're there, Mr. David.
He hasn't
Yes,
said
I am
no.
dead. I am no longer living. I am doing a Kevin.
Oh,
Okay, before we
funny.
start,
Oh,
I need to
you're
grab a
so
drink.
funny.
Okay, now we're racist.
Yeah, why did you go Asian all of a sudden, you racist bastard?
I don't know. How long have you known me?
Oh my god.
I mean, I've known you always been a racist bastard. But...
I'm not racist. I hate everybody equally.
Okay.
You're equal opportunity racist. Still a racist.
I'm not racist. I have a colored TV.
Oh my god.
Alright, let's go.
Todd's over there just like face palming the whole fucking time.
he's not even baseball. He's just hitting his head slowly in the desk.
All right, I'm back.
Did
Or
you
he's
leave?
gone.
God damn it, I was about to start.
I said I was going to be right back. I had to grab a drink.
Oh,
No
I
one
didn't-
heard you.
Literally no one heard you.
Wow. Thanks, guys.
It was
Get
probably
into
like
silence.
Michael was probably like,
Hello, darkness, my old friend.
for fuck's sake. I swear to God.
Alright. Welcome to the Gadget Inspectors, your home for angry tech talk and a little bit of news. I am your co-host, Jeff Stevens. Tonight, as always, I have my other co-host, Mr. David Feldman.
Hello, everybody.
Joined with us tonight, some special guests. We got Mr. Michael Fritz,
Hello.
and back from the dead, Kevin Nelson.
How many times am I gonna be revived here?
It's just going to be a process. We'll work it out.
You're constantly dead. We just do seances every once in a while to bring you back to the living.
All right. We must do the news. So, David, will you please take it away?
Yes, we must. All right, guys and gals. Google just disclosed a very major Windows bug, and apparently Microsoft isn't happy about it. So
there's good reason.
there really is. It's long story short, it's actually a critical vulnerability in Windows that can cause massive amounts of havoc. And so basically what happened was Google was like, okay, hey, you know what? We found this bug. We're going to report it. And it was like, hold on.
Did a dog just happen?
No, Morgan came home.
Oh.
Oh.
Okay, well, I'll take over from here. Basically, what happened is there was a bug that was found primarily by Google, and they patched it out of Chrome and let Microsoft know. And time passed, and basically the patch notes for Chrome came out, and they made a comment about why that was there, and that's how it got outed.
10 days later, that was the time period.
Yes,
Right,
it was also
and
10 days later.
So basically, Microsoft is saying that they don't have enough time to patch a bug in 10 days.
Seriously?
Really? Microsoft, one of the biggest software companies in the world, doesn't have enough time in 10 days to patch a bug that Google basically pretty much mapped out for them.
Well,
I'm-
according to our producer, Google maintains a 7-day minimum silence before releasing all security risks.
So they got
Right,
extra
so-
3 days.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Also, why is Windows getting beat to the punch by Adobe? And Adobe
What-
Flash specifically.
What do
Flash
you
had
mean?
they'd already patched the bug out of Adobe Flash before Windows got around to it.
Oh, I don't know. I do know that see that to me, it's not the fact that Google publicized this bug. It's nice that they're working like to fix these problems. But I honestly feel like them saying, "Hey, Windows, you have an issue that you need to fix," but not necessarily releasing the full details publicly, kind of incentivizes Microsoft to get their ass in gear, I guess. But by doing it publicly, they're also saying, "Hey, Microsoft, get your fucking ass in gear." So I don't know.
Yep.
This is interesting. I'm. It's so funny that it's a fucking such a large bug, though. Anyways, so let's go on to our next topic. We have the DMCA is now going to allow exceptions to various hacking of software of owned products. This is something that we talked about in an earlier podcast. I don't exactly remember the episode specifically. But basically this law, it's kind of was the precursor to this was the ability to actually unlock your phone, okay, your smartphone. And this was probably about 2 years ago. This law now basically allows you to tinker with software in your car, in your smartphone, and basically any device that you own for research purposes only. This does not mean that you can say, "Hey, I'm going to reverse engineer this software and then start, releasing it to the public." That's not what this is for. This is to modify it in the event that you need to repair something, kind of like, the John Deere tractors that farmers were getting an uproar about in our last podcast episode. Farmers just trying to fucking repair their tractor, and they couldn't do it because the software was locked down by John Deere. So now there is a limit to this. If I'm not mistaken, it's for up to
2 years.
2 years. So,
But it didn't go into effect for a year.
right. So it's interesting to note that, there's a 1 year delay. It was very counterproductive, which I guess I can agree to that. Right to Repair was episode 8, by the way, if anybody wants to take a listen to that particular episode where we discuss this issue more in depth. But yeah, I think this is a good thing. I'm very interested to see what people do with it, but I'm also interested to see kind of the havoc that could be caused by this, because tinkering with your own stuff is now legal.
Well, the thing is, though, people have been doing it for years in their cars where they sit there and they hack the ECU and they modify air to get fuel ratios and whatnot. So the fact that they're legally allowing you to do this with more complicated software, like say ran by Tesla, it's not that surprising to me.
Right. So, we also have, Tesla. It's good that you mentioned Tesla, actually. They haven't actually commented on this specifically, according to our producer, but they have warned users not to mess with the Autopilot API, which, that brings up a good point. If you're using such complex software, should you really be modifying it if you don't know what the fuck you're doing?
Yeah, that was gonna be my point. Is with the autopilot in Tesla models, none of you guys, if for some reason you guys don't know about it, it basically drives the car by itself.
To a degree.
To a degree, yes. You do have to keep your hands on the steering wheel, after a certain amount of time, and it notifies you, hey, press steering wheel, do something, pay attention. If you start modifying with that, you're potentially putting other people's lives at risk. Because let's be honest here, you're not the best at modifying their software.
Well, not only that, but it also brings up, a legality situation. If you modified the software, if you knowingly modified it, is the company now at fault?
Yeah, exactly.
Well, no, because on guarantee, the law kind of specifically states that if you modify the software outside of these reasons, you no longer have any claim over any potential danger.
Right. It's interesting, so we'll have to kind of revisit this in the future to see how this goes.
Watch all the Teslas drive into people.
The last news article is actually kind of a funny one. Apple has basically released, their new MacBook Pro, which actually has been receiving kind of a lot of hate.
A lot.
I wonder why.
If you're not fully aware, we did in our last episode kind of a breakdown of what the new MacBook Pro entails and why it's probably not going to be that great. But just very briefly, it's ports. So it's got 4 USB-C ports, which is great if you have a ton of USB-C adapters. Razer, on the other hand, actually has, their kind of high-end thin laptop for gaming, and has basically said, hey, on Twitter, do we just actually want to say the tweet?
Just go ahead and say it.
Yeah, go ahead.
Let's just say the tweet.
And this is quoting Razer's tweet directly, by the way.
You call yourself Pro S my D.
You didn't say it right.
Oh, I'm sorry. Why don't you go ahead?
You got to say it like this. You call yourself Pro S my D.
All right. I guess I'll clap to that.
Don't clap.
They later apologize. We apologize for the SD reader joke to those who were offended. It was intended as a lighthearted turn of phrase that missed the mark. Don't apologize, Razer. Don't ever apologize for something that funny.
I brought this up in the conversation because this was shared to us a couple of days ago, and to be honest with you, it's not going to make a dent. It's hysterical. It's awesome. Props for Razer doing that. They definitely, I agree with Jeff, they definitely should not have apologized. Everybody gets so butthurt nowadays. Fuck them. Apple did this on their own.
That's why they're butthurt.
Exactly. all the millennials are on Twitter. How could you, Razer? You made fun of Apple. I make fun of Apple all the time. I love Apple, but they're making turns in the wrong direction here.
We here at Gadget Inspectors make fun of Apple so much because we know it makes David mad.
A roar.
David, you and I are the Apple fanboys of the group here. Am I right?
We are.
David's like, not after fucking last week.
Yeah. Do you agree with their choices? Do you agree with their choices on this?
David, do you want to tell the lovely crowd what you're considering getting?
I'm actually looking at a Surface Microsoft device.
That has been officially announced on GI.
Did you not see this?
And there's a couple of reasons why I'm actually considering it. And it's not that I'm going to buy it for sure. But the fact that I'm at least considering it means that, Apple has really lost a lot of respect in the industry last week because of their MacBook Pro. Because you can't really call it a MacBook Pro because there's nothing pro about it anymore.
And there's no light up Apple.
There really isn't. And the problem is with that touch bar, it the one thing I loved about Apple was it stopped trying to be so gimmicky. And
it still has one thing from the Pro. It's still got the price.
Yeah, the price. And the screen. That's about it. But the Pro, it meant that you had a powerful machine that could video render. It could render photography. It could it was made for developers, people who love to code. That's the thing that was amazing about the Pro line. And it hadn't been updated in 4.5 years, and this is the best that they can come up with.
And they put fucking AMD chips in it.
Right. I'm not even gonna go there with the AMD chips. It's not even worth the time. Yeah, no, you didn't know that.
Did you miss that,
You didn't know that?
No.
Are you fucking kidding me?
Yeah, they went
No.
AMD.
They put
And-
AMD
and
in
that-
there.
That's
They
not
didn't
the
put
worst.
Intel or
That's not
NVIDIA.
the worst part to me. The worst part to me.
Hold on,
is-
hold up a second. I apologize. Are you referring to the processor or the GPU?
The GPU.
The GPU.
Okay, because I'm pretty sure most of these come standard with the Intel Iris Pro.
It
6th gen, yeah.
Okay, so the Pro line, the 15-inch Mac Pro line, should have like a dedicated graphics card as well as an integrated graphics card from Intel.
Right.
So what we're talking about is the 15-inch does have an AMD dedicated graphics card now versus NVIDIA.
Okay. That's not new though. They've
But
been
you-
using
To the Pro
They've
line,
been
yeah,
using
not
AMD
not
in
to
their Mac
Apple, but to the
Pros.
Pro line, it absolutely is.
they've been using AMD chipsets in their Mac Pro desktops.
Yes, they have
for
been using AMD
ages.
chipsets in their Mac Pro. A dedicated device that requires power 24/7 and heating is not an issue.
Okay.
Okay, AMD
Right.
cards run hotter
Okay, that's kind of a fallacy, but all right.
and they use more
Right,
power.
and like I said, they've used AMD for many years. Like in
6
the Mac
years.
Pro line, but not in the MacBook, which is what we were talking about.
Yeah, I'm talking about the MacBook. I'm sorry.
And so, anyways, what
Sorry.
I was saying though is that the touch bar, even though it's pretty, it's absolutely useless to most people. The only thing you're gonna get out of it is the cool little new Touch ID factor, and that's about it.
But you can add that really shitty time lapse that they added in
Right,
the
well,
emojis.
you know, I thought it was kind of cool, but the more I look at it, and the more I'm working on my own laptop, the more I'm like, why would you use this? How, you know, you're pretty much the only viable reason I can think of having something like that is so that people who have never used shortcuts before might start using them.
Yeah.
That's it.
And here's another thing, and this goes with computers and everything in general. Quit making everything so fucking thin.
No, I
Make
don't
it
mind the thing.
thicker.
I really
No,
don't. Because
make it thicker
like no,
and double
Apple
the battery
needs to
life.
go and make something different to try to force the industry in a certain direction. That's fine. I'm
Dude,
okay with that.
I guarantee
What
you,
I'm
if
not okay
Apple-
with though is that you're going to sit there and you're going to alienate your entire, like pretty much your entire demographic. Apple is supposed to be made for creatives. That was the whole point of having an Apple. When you
Yes.
sit there and you make a muddled Pro line that doesn't even know its own identity, man, that basically you're just telling everybody to fuck themselves. We don't even know what the hell we're doing right now.
Yeah, and the fact that you can't use the Lightning earpods with your
Right. How are they going to sit there and they're going to have a Mac? They're going to sit there and we're going to release a new iPhone with no headphone port, and we're going to talk about how great Lightning is, and then we're going to add the damn port back into the new line of Mac.
But
What-
David,
what the fuck
David,
are you trying to
David,
say,
David.
Apple?
David.
Either you stick to one thing or you don't do it at all.
David. Who uses those shitty earpods though?
Oh, no one really, but still, that's besides the
Exactly.
point.
Before we close out this topic, because I think it could go on forever and ever.
Oh, it could.
I just want to point out, David, that this started with the iPad Pro. Moving
Okay,
on.
you know what? No,
Nope,
do
nope,
not
moving
start
on.
that shit.
Moving on.
Do not. Yeah, you better move on.
Moving on. All right, that's it for our news topics. As always, you can find them in the podcast post on rantingmedia.com.
Yeah.
Speaking of which, if you're not already a subscriber, you can find us on rantingmedia.com. All you have to do is press the gadget inspectors under listen now at the very top of the website.
Yeah.
All right. So, topics. This first topic I actually came up with myself just because it was kind of a spur of the moment type of thing. We've all pretty much been watching Westworld with the exception of Michael. So we're not actually going to talk about spoilers or anything like that. But I was really interested about actually talking about the technology that makes up Westworld. So if
Jon
you're not-
Snow did it.
No. Oh my God.
What? Kevin, shut up.
All right. So if you're not familiar with, I just can't talk tonight. I apologize. If you're not familiar with Westworld, it's basically set sometime in the future. It's a theme park that has extremely advanced robots. Okay.
Can I make an observation real quick though?
Sure.
Yes.
What is up with Crichton and amusement parks?
Well,
He
I-
loves to do the science fiction with the amusement parks.
he loves chaos theory. man.
He really
Loves
does.
chaos theory.
For those who aren't familiar, Crichton is the author for Jurassic Park, another very famous amusement park went wrong. And he's also the creator of the storyline of Westworld. The actual movie, the show itself is based off the movie called Westworld, and it does not follow the same exact storyline, but the
Right.
premise is still the same.
Right. So basically, it's a theme park with highly advanced robots that are so advanced they're basically acting like humans. And it kind of, really makes you think of what could go wrong in this type of situation with these robots. Robots that are basically just like humans. They bleed when they're shot. They're programmed not to hurt anything whatsoever, not so much as a fly. But what really could go wrong with this type of technology? Um, and just really, how far off are we from this type of technology? So, who wants to kind of start on this topic?
Oh, I'll go.
All right.
I think we're really far off from this type of technology. First off, with at how advanced that all, and if you guys haven't seen the show, I highly recommend it. Get it on. It's on HBO only, so you have to have HBO Go, HBO Now, or HBO on the television. It's a great show to watch, but it's a little scary at how realistic the animatronic, the robots basically are. They, it's insane. They act, look, talk, and perform every normal human task. The only thing stopping them, without going to spoilers, of course, is this code. And with technology nowadays, what's stopping these codes from not working? Even 30, 60, 80, 100, 1,000 years down the line, it's all good as well, bead and all that stuff, but there's always a human aspect to things, and there's always going to be a backdoor that they always want to put in, and it's scary.
Yeah,
It really is.
Now, just kind of speaking to the point of what these things can't do. They're programmed basically to where they can kill each other, but they cannot hurt a human.
Yes.
Or rather, let me rephrase that: they cannot kill a human. They can hurt a human.
So basically, they follow the laws of robotics.
Yes.
Right. So
From iRobot.
the laws of robotics that David is referring to is actually Asimov's rules of robotics. Basically, can't harm humans of any kind. What is the full rules actually?
Well, Jeff is researching that. I want to go and talk about how I interpret the Westworld, the technology of Westworld. The fact that it's an amusement park, or more to the point, it's a alternate reality to what you're living in, if you will, an immersed reality. I think it's the premise of Westworld is really, really impressive. I like the fact that they're using technology that allows you to experience something in a completely different
You'd
way.
think
In
toys
fact,
are
it's
just
almost to the point where it's more visceral and physical than, say, the holodeck in Star Trek. And I think the fact that this is more in line with what we can do with today's technology than what you have with Star Trek and holograms and whatever that pseudoscience is that they yammer on about and creating those that type of technology. The fact that you can literally do whatever you want with these robots and there's no real consequences the next day is actually very liberating. It means that you can play the bad guy. This basically takes video games to a whole new level. And it makes, like I said, it makes things more real, and you get more of a true reaction from not only yourself but also the characters, if you will, from around from the characters in that storyline.
Yeah. Now, so producer actually found the 3 laws of robotics. The first rule is a robot may not injure a human being or through an action allow a human being to come to harm. Second is a robot must obey orders given to it by human beings except where such orders would conflict with the first law. And finally, a robot must protect its own existence as long as such protection does not conflict with the first or second law. Now, in the show, it's not explicitly stated that they follow these exact rules. there. It's never mentioned, and probably because it would, be a little campy or what have you. I guess I'm not really sure. Um, but in this Western world that you're residing in when you visit this theme park, you, like David said, you can literally do anything. If you wanted to have sex with prostitutes for hours on end, you can do that. You can murder someone as soon as you walk on the street, and the robots will react accordingly. They'll probably pull a gun on you and start trying to shoot you, or they can put you into jail, but they can't actually kill you. So you basically can experience everything that you normally would up to a certain point.
So
Um,
what if you wanted to gather the robots and tie them to train tracks?
oh man,
Is
I'm
that a
really glad you
possibility?
said that.
Yes.
Because Red Dead Redemption, man, that's my thing.
Ah.
Yeah, if you really wanted to, you could. You can harm these things. The
There's only one problem
resiliency
with that,
okay.
though. This world does operate on real physics. So having a train run over a body, especially a metallic or carbon fiber or whatever the heck material they use on these things, could actually cause the train to derail and you could get killed. So it may not be advisable.
Right. But I mean, even in this world, it's all controlled by operators essentially. So there's basically, how far is everyone caught up to it? Because this isn't really a spoiler.
Like I said,
fully
I'm
caught up.
at episode 2 personally, so I got the premise
Okay.
mostly.
So basically, they basically control every single fragment of this world. So they can actually control guns going off. They can say, okay, we'll lock these guns for these hosts. Hosts are actually the robots, by the way. And they can say, all right, these hosts, their guns will lock up at a specific time. They can even program certain hosts to use guns. If you're not programmed to use those guns, you can't use the guns at all. They even control explosions. So say, for instance, you were to light a stick of dynamite. They can control the stick of dynamite being able to be lit and used in this world. So, if for whatever reason they were like, hey, we're going to have this guy strapped to a train, they would probably just shut the train down.
Right.
So it's just one of those things, but it's crazy because in this world, we're not talking about virtual reality here. They're actually out in a real breathing world interacting with robots that are pretty much just like humans. And the the hosts react in such a way that you can't really tell the difference. And that's where it gets really scary. It's uncanny valley scary, essentially.
Yeah.
And it gets to the point where we already have a lot of people asking during the show, is that guy a host? Is that guy really a human? He probably isn't.
Yeah, I've questioned that about a couple of the characters.
Now, the thing you got to think about, though, is that, because it's so real, again, you get an organic experience from the thing. So if you're thinking about it as a person going to these storylines, you paid this amount of money to experience this world. You do it for a reason, and it's almost to the point where it's addictive, where you hear several references to being, oh, this is my 5th time, or I've been here so many times, and whatnot. So the fact that you can do whatever you want, again, you can play any character, you can play any role you feel like, and you can be something as simple as a store owner, or you can be something as, a sinister, terrible person. And that really is truly, it gives you the ability to unleash yourself from what you would normally consider your public persona.
So this type of technology right now, the closest thing we will have for the foreseeable future is VR. Okay. We're just not to the point where we're going to have truly organic robots. We're just now on the cusp of making actual AI. The closest things to AI that we can see like in our day-to-day lives is, and this is very, very basic AI, Siri, Google Now, Alexa from Amazon. Those are very basic types of AI, and they're primarily built on machine learning.
Now, Jeff,
What?
do you consider these hosts to have AI, or do you consider them to be a series of very intricate programming to react to certain situations?
I think it's a little bit of both, and the only reason why I say that is because they're defined by programs, like they're set in their own little storyline. But that being said, they can literally be whisked away at any point by any person and they react accordingly.
Well, see, and then again, that's the definition of pre-programmed, you know, reactions. So the program itself is so intricate that everything that can happen has a pre-programmed reaction. So, you know, true AI would be, you know, the ability to react without programming.
Well, and see, but I can't really talk about that too much.
I know.
And there's various reasons why I can't talk about that too much.
Okay, well, let's not do that. Let's
Yeah,
say
we're
what
not
you think
we're not
would
delving
be...
into we're not delving into spoilers on this.
Well,
You're
but
right.
you have
Yeah,
to
so let's
remember
back
that
off.
even AI is based off of pre-existing programming. I mean,
Right.
AI isn't just some fluid thought. It is programming.
The concept of AI is basically you data a computer and you program it with really basic instincts, if you will, just like you would teach a child. And as it grows and learns from its experiences, it can rewrite or recreate its own programming. That's like, in the instance, an AI, a true, you know, unleashed AI, versus what you see in Westworld for the most part, which is reactionary programming versus actual thought process.
Right, and so obviously this technology is really quite advanced. It's something, you know, that we don't really possess in our current time. The closest thing that I could say is probably animatronics. Um, but even then, like that's just so far removed from what we have in Westworld. It's ridiculous. But looking at just kind of the overarching technology, you know, you have the ability to now manipulate an entire physical world. That's kind of cool.
Yeah.
Also, extremely. I get paranoid about this stuff all the time.
Womp womp.
So like I'm moving into a new place in March, and I'm, you know, considering making this place smart home esque. And, you know, I was looking at some other options the other day, and, you know, they have Garagio. If you're not familiar with that, it basically it's allows you to control your garage door, you know, within your smart home, essentially. Also, can I just say that any like smart home solution is fucking expensive.
Yes,
Yep.
yes,
Yeah,
you can
duh.
because it
Dude.
is.
Dude, so Garagio by itself, it's a little tiny black box, plugs in right next to your garage door opener. Cost $200 just for that.
Can't you just buy a Raspberry Pi and put a servo to it and connect it that way? But it's
Yeah,
not.
but
I'm
then
sure
you'd
you
have
could.
to do the programming and a
Right,
lot of extra
right.
work. You
It's
might as well
not-
spend the $200.
Right. It's
Yeah.
not as user friendly that way. Also, the support, because every single
Yeah.
garage door system is different. What if it operates on a different frequency? Blah 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 blah. But just, you know, smart locks, garage door
Oh my
openers,
God.
thermostat, you know, all of that is like exceeding, you know, almost $1,000 at that point.
Oh, it is.
But
Smart light bulbs. I
the
bought
other,
set of Philips Hue bulbs.
yeah, I mean,
Fucking
that's
starter set is $179. Another
how many
fucking
bulbs?
bulb? 3.
yeah.
So if you have a fan with 4 light bulbs, you either don't get a 4th light bulb or you pay $70 for that 4th light bulb.
That's ridiculous.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah. But my point being, the only reason I'm mentioning any of this is that it's actually part of the Internet of Things. Internet of Things is basically, you know, smart connected devices that are hooked up to the internet, all communicating with each other, which, if you don't know, was also used to actually hack other servers recently.
Yes, it was.
There is a massive DDoS attack. Direct denial of service basically brought down several websites, and it was actually, you know, code that was implanted in a ton of, you know, online baby monitors, smart locks, all sorts of great things. My point being, why I'm making this really long-winded point, is that this type of technology can be hacked.
And it's scary.
Could you imagine, you know, having a Westworld robot, you know, in your house, just being like, hey, you're my servant, you go do shit for me and take the kids to school, all this other stuff. What happens when Joe Schmo hacks into your robot and says, "Hey, you know that little nice safety net feature we have where it can't kill you? Yeah, we're just gonna take that out."
The world's getting
Um,
overpopulated.
Okay, well, first off, Jeff, stop pissing off people, and then that wouldn't happen. But
I'm
you
just
guys,
saying in general, you know,
right?
it's
But now what you're describing is iRobot, but that's besides the point. Um, you know, just because the possibility is there doesn't mean it's going to happen. And two, I mean, you can't sit there and inhibit progress because of your own fears. We wouldn't be driving around in motorcycles or cars because in reality, the potential for us to die in those things are astronomical compared to somebody sitting there purposely hacking a robot and having it turn murderous.
that's
So,
not
you
necessarily
can,
my point. My
but-
my point being is, all right, David, would you have one of these in your house?
yeah, absolutely. Why not?
A robot?
Yes.
If it has a hardware kill switch that only can be physically touched off, yes, possibly. But other than that, probably not.
Okay, so how is that hardware switch initiated?
You press the button.
What button?
A button on them.
It's right nipple. That's what
I mean, but say you put a button on them. All they have to do is protect the button. Or-
Exactly.
right.
You know.
Now, and I'm sorry, but if you had an on and off switch, would you like anybody else to know about it?
But it's
Don't,
not.
don't we all have an on-off switch?
I mean, plus
Uh,
if hypothetically
Michael's a robot, guys.
plus hypothetically, let's just be honest here. If it's the right nipple, I'm pretty sure you're gonna have to like seduce the robot first. And be like, all right, here we go. And
Come here, bitchy, bitchy.
the robot's like, oh, this is
Wow.
I'm just saying.
Okay,
but
Jeff's using his mojo on robots now.
I guess. So this is interesting technology. I don't think we'll see it in our lifetime, unfortunately. We're
Oh,
a generation too far behind.
damn it. I'm going to live forever.
Catch up.
Somebody give me a cybernetic body.
Oh God, no! Please don't.
Yes,
Please
do it.
Please don't.
Preserve my
Yeah,
preserve my
exactly.
magnificent brain.
Just,
Oh, baby.
I just imagine Apple being like, "Hello, we have a new product."
Oh, God.
The eye brain.
No, that's never mind. I'm gonna stop.
All right. Well, so this, I'm torn. I would really love to have this technology in my life just because it'd be really cool. And in my mind, it's you could cross ethical boundaries with it. And what I
Yeah.
mean by that is,
Are you trying to say someone's gonna rape the robot?
no,
No.
Because
I-
I'm sorry, that's like one of the first
no,
scenes
I'm
in the
gonna
show.
I'm gonna
That's why
bring
I
you
was
down
curious.
a couple notches, and I'm just gonna be a little bit more sentimental than that. What if before you die, you could take everything that makes you, place it in an artificial brain, and then put it in one of these things?
Right? Okay.
Would you do that?
Why not live forever?
We would
Is
need
it ethical?
foresight first. We would need to know when we're gonna die.
No, not necessarily.
Yeah, you do. What if you die in a car crash?
Snapshots.
Oh, and what's really funny is
Snapshots.
you cross into another movie, and I'm really surprised this is not a movie podcast right now, but you're crossing into another movie, and that's called Sixth Day. The Sixth Day's premise is that you can clone your body and you can basically map out your brain and have it downloaded into this new body. Having that technology, again, it comes into a question of ethics, whether or not it's ethical for you to die. And the problem is when you have that kind of power and technology, you can get to the point where only certain people are allowed to have this, and I'm going to charge them so much amount of money, or they're going to have to owe me so much in favors in order for this to happen for them. And that brings about to the point where you have too much power under either one corporation or under one person.
You're playing God at that point.
Basically, yes.
Yeah, producer said Apple Time Machine Brain Edition. plug in your skull with Thunderbolt 10 is what he said. That's
Hey,
a
man.
good point. Hey, I'm just saying, I'm just trying to get, just the general, because this technology can go so many different places. It's not just, having a good time killing robots, Red Dead Redemption style, and the, good old West. It's, there's tons of other possibilities here.
No, I mean you can have a Matrix style storyline. You can have, something from Neanderthal caveman era. You can have something from the Roman time, which would probably be incredibly popular right there.
I mean, you're thinking like business perspective. I'm thinking more of like the possibilities you could, advance the human race.
I'm thinking more entertainment more than anything. That's what I'm thinking of.
Business.
Advancing the human race, the only way they'd be possible is if they would be able to somehow clone a brain, but mechanically, and then allow that person to be able to download themselves into a robot body. But then, in essence, are we still going to be human?
Right. So, man, we got all philosophical here.
Yeah.
And completely off topic.
Hey, that's where the conversation leads.
Media.
This is true.
So I think we're going to take a pause on this topic for now. And we may revisit it in the future. Probably not on this podcast, but possibly our new movie podcast, Real Reporters.
Shameless plug 2.0.
Coming in the future.
The future is now.
It's possible.
Oh, jeez. Okay,
we're still
back from
hammering
the
out
80s
those
monologue.
details. So let's move on to our next topic. This is also fairly topical. How responsible should companies be for technology? What is considered bare bones necessary compensation for failed products? The major reason why I'm talking about all of this is because of a little thing called the Samsung Galaxy Note 7, which we've talked about before.
Kaboom.
In case you don't know, it blows up. If you have one, for dear God's sake, fucking return it, throw it into a garbage can or something, throw it in the ocean,
or you can
for
let
all
it
I
blow
care.
up and you can
Or
sue for
you
millions.
can sell it on eBay and get lots of money.
Really? Why would
I'm
you
pretty
sell it
sure
on...
it's becoming
That's
collectible
stupid.
now.
That's
No,
stupid.
yeah, you can't sell it online because if it sits there and it transports, it blows up, and then you're responsible for millions of people dying.
Maybe
Fucking
that was
terrorists
the
over
plan.
here.
Maybe
Stop
that
giving them
was the
ideas.
plan
Shit.
all along. Oh my god. Anyways, so I mean, just when you're designing this technology, you obviously have your research process, your development process, and then eventually it gets into the hands of the customer. When stuff goes wrong, how responsible should the companies be when
Hey,
stuff
Jeff,
goes wrong? What?
have you ever had a rotten apple?
No.
You've never had an apple go rotten on you.
No, because
How about
you
an
can,
orange or any piece of fruit or food?
you can generally tell when food's gone bad.
Right. But what do you do with it after that?
You toss it out.
There you go. Answer solved.
Answer solved. That's such correct English. I don't even know what to say.
What I'm saying though is that why should there be any type of compensation?
I didn't say compensation yet. Calm your tits.
You did actually. It was you
All right,
literally
well,
said that in the very first part of the
what?
You did say compensation.
You had horrible English earlier. I messed up. All right, let's just call it even. All right. Anyways, so I really mean, like, ethically, like, should companies, say for instance they release a product and after a year it just completely craps out. Okay. How responsible is the company for that product after that time?
None.
At all.
Nope.
So like
I
no
mean, you
company.
don't, okay, the same thing could be said about marriage. If your marriage craps out halfway through, I mean, okay, well, shit, you do get half this crap. So if you're in the state of California, you get half of the money that Samsung owes you. So I mean, you get something, I guess.
Whoa! Are you suggesting that someone's gonna get married to Samsung?
No, I'm just saying. Like, let's say if you follow the rules of marriage in California, there's you get half. It's basically the half law. So if you sit there and you buy a device, and if you follow the California laws, if something craps out within a certain period of time, you get half of your ownership back.
I'm just saying, the major piece about this is that I'm really tired of shit that just breaks so
But that's
quickly.
what warranties are for.
Right. Extended warranties that you have to pay
Right.
for.
So another company makes money off of the failing products of other companies.
Right. So this is really down to how the build quality of devices now. Okay. Stuff obviously is not designed to be as good as it used to be. And I know I sound old.
Get off my lawn. What'd you take the
I
place of
sound
David?
like an old
No,
dude.
no, but
who
what you're
literally-
touching on, Jeff, is actually an incredible movement in America happening right now, where people are starting to realize, we can't be a consumer generation where we sit there and we consume and throw away, consume and throw away. We need things that last longer. We want to spend more money on these items that will last us longer, and people wanting to see craftsmanship back into their products. And right now there's a lot of companies out there that are just like, we're gonna make it as pretty as possible, but it'll fall apart in about 6 months.
So, are you familiar with the term planned obsolescence?
What are you let me guess, you're referring to the belief that, let's say, a product has a shelf life and it will basically self-destruct in that time period.
Yeah.
Except it's not a belief. It's actually
It's proven.
intended.
Do you know who started that movement?
Jobs.
Steve Jobs. So, yes. Grumble.
Yeah, it could
So-
have been, just that guy that invented Microsoft's Office.
Okay.
Well, I'm just saying,
Okay.
I mean,
Trying to save
Microsoft
face. Hey,
comes out with an
hey,
obsolete piece
hey.
of software as soon as it comes out. I mean,
Hey.
patch day 0 day.
You're not allowed to defend Apple anymore. You that ship has sailed. All right. But so
No,
anyway,
I
at
just
least it
said
didn't
Steve Jobs.
explode.
Damn it! I'm not gonna defend Tim Cook.
so planned obsolescence is basically the theory that a product will eventually break down after a certain amount of time. It will fail possibly after a year, even before that. So that the goal is that you'll say, throw it in the trash and buy a new one.
Which is
I've had
basically
this
the
happen.
concept of what you have with toasters and microwaves and other things like that.
Right.
And iPhones.
So
Every Android device ever.
this is where it's gonna get real hairy, and I'm sure I'm gonna get a lot of flack as soon as I say it.
Shave.
Say it.
I think there needs to be a legal law saying
boy.
that basically this: you need to build your devices to a certain standard of quality. Okay, which I understand is going to be very hard to determine, but there's a way to do it. Okay. It should last this long. If it doesn't, that's okay, but you have to pay the customer X amount of dollars. Now, this also means that the cost of your goods will go up. I'm okay with that.
Jeff's log, everybody.
If I know that my product is going to last more than a couple years. Okay, I'm really tired of laptops lasting less than 5 years. I'm really tired of printers just dying on me within a year.
We'll tell HP to make better printers.
No, dude, it's every printer manufacturer.
It really is pretty much.
It's not.
But
But-
any laptop now that you buy that isn't over $1,000 will fucking die.
But that's
months.
not because the manufacturing fault.
Is it?
I don't believe so. Well, in laptops specifically.
Let me tell you something here. All right, when you put cheap shit in, you get cheap shit out. So
Yes,
it's absolutely the manufacturer's problem.
But in these high-end $1,000 laptops, I see it as more as technology not being able to keep up 5, 6, 10 years down the line.
No,
now, hold on. No, you touch on an interesting premise there, Kevin. Is it planned obsolescence if technology pushes you to the point where you need to replace it?
No,
within reason.
because there's
No, but
nothing
what
better
I'm
than at
what
that
I'm trying to
point in
say though
time.
is that maybe there's a reason why these products last only so long. Because if you think about it, if we had products that lasted years, then what's the point of upgrading? And then what's the point of advancing our technology?
You know what?
Okay,
you kind
flip
of
side.
force yourself into a standstill.
Flip side here. Apple's been doing that for how long, and we still see them being stable.
I mean,
Flip side.
I'm. It's not like I'm not working on a laptop that's over 3, maybe 4 years old at this point, because I am.
Exactly.
And it runs phenomenally well.
If your
Exactly.
shit is still good, you should be able to trade it in at a good value.
If your
But-
shit is
but
still
who's
good,
gonna
trade it
Okay,
in.
you know, your good shit here. What's the value at that point if it's so old?
Exactly.
You know, that's the problem that your premise is having, is that you're sitting there, you're saying, oh, these things are going to be so good for so long, and once these companies make these brilliant, exceptional devices, then what is the motivation
But are we seeing
to
that trend
have an
anymore?
improvement?
Are we seeing that trend anymore? Can you truly sit down here and say that new technology is coming out so quickly and so rapidly that a device 1 year from now has to be replaced?
My phone?
I mean, I wouldn't say that it has to
Why?
be
What's
replaced,
different?
but
What's different about your phone now versus 1 year before?
Let's see. It's got more features. It charges faster. Battery life is more improved. Things like that. There are batteries specifically. They have a shelf life. They just chemically stop working properly after so many years. So
So make the battery be replaceable.
but then you lose thinness.
Jeff.
Oh
Jeff,
my
and-
god!
Jeff. Hang on a second, Jeff. Hang on a second. Okay, that's iPhone exact standpoint. Let's look at an Android phone from 2 years ago with a replaceable battery. Is that still functional?
Yes.
yeah.
What phone?
I don't know. Pretty much every Android phone I've ever owned.
How about the Samsung S3 that's sitting in my drawer that works just fine?
Well,
But-
now that's the thing though, because I have
Shut up,
one of the very
producer.
first droids from Motorola, and does it work? Yeah, if you plug it up, and that's about it. Battery doesn't work. Having to try to replace it though, try to replace this battery. It's a pain in the ass, and it's expensive because no one makes this battery anymore.
How
So-
old is
Wait,
that
wait,
phone?
wait. Hold on. Samsung Galaxy.
Don't call me out on my shit. I'm trying to make a point.
No, I'm calling you out on your shit right now.
Damn it.
Right now. Samsung Galaxy S3 replacement battery.
No, I'm not talking about Samsung replacement battery. I'm talking about the Motorola Droid replacement battery. This is
Okay.
Motorola
All right.
Droid.
All right.
Oh shit! We're now
Okay,
in the Google guy.
replacement-
Hey, hold on.
S3
I'll
battery
even
is
give you the
$8.
battery manufacturing number. It is the BP6X.
We're all Google.
BP6X, $3.42 and free shipping. Boom!
What?
Hey, David,
Dude, it's like $3.91 on eBay.
I suggest you sit down.
I am saying
You have
down.
been fucking shut down.
You can buy two
No,
of
but
them for
what I'm saying, though,
$5.48.
is that how old is this phone? When was it manufactured?
Oh, I don't know.
Oh, it was manufactured a while ago. But the thing is,
Dude.
though,
David, you can buy 50 of them for $54.80. Batteries for days.
Fucking
yeah,
kill the
but
environment while we're
Batteries
that's
doing it.
besides
for
the point. Because what happens is, if I could buy these so many batteries for so cheap, then what's the point of ever getting an iPhone 7 or a
Because
Oh,
of the
new
software.
Google?
congratulations. You finally figured it out.
Because dude, I've already been saying this with phones is they make their software obsolete.
No, they don't make their software obsolete. They
That
make
is
make
a
their
phones-
fucking lie. That is a
They,
fucking
they
lie.
make
and
their
you know
software
it.
to where their phones are obsolete.
No, iPads, iPhones, they
No,
put
I agree.
They put stuff on their software that for no fucking reason no longer works on their older shit.
Right, because it's called innovation, Jeff.
Oh my get the fuck out of here with that.
David,
You know what?
You don't get to hide behind the word innovation anymore.
Not
David.
anymore.
Not
Oh,
anymore.
come on, guys.
Not when we removed the headphone jack from a phone, but not from the computer.
Yeah, I
you're
didn't
wrong.
say innovation had to make sense. Okay.
How's that courage for you?
No, that courage is
Yeah, they
retarded.
don't hide
All
behind
right,
innovation
but
anymore.
no,
they hide
but
behind
that's
courage.
besides the point. Like, let's stop, bashing each company. What it comes down
mean
to
stop
though
bashing
is
David.
where you have to have an incentive to increase, your consumer market. If you get to the point where your products don't need to be replaced, then we have to create a whole new market.
Not necessarily. Okay, now when I'm talking about devices that last for years and years, I'm talking like a 2-year shelf life. Like, for certain, this phone will work for 2 years, no issues, and we'll support it for 2 years.
But have you updated
But
it?
you know, I can do that with my Apple right now. What's the difference?
I'm working on an iPhone. I still have an iPhone 4S over here running iOS fucking whatever it was when it came out, jailbroken, and it still works.
That's lovely and all, but I'm talking about your lower end laptops, your lower end
Yeah.
smartphones.
But Jeff, you buy
Your
a lower end
high-end
laptop
stuff-
going into it knowing that it's a piece of shit and it's not
Exactly.
going to last that long.
But the average consumer does not. The average,
average
consumer,
consumer
sees it as a
absolutely
$500
does, because-
investment.
No. The average consumer sees a $300 laptop and they're like, "Oh, $300. Oh, well, what about this $600? No, that's too expensive. I don't want that."
Right.
And-
It's not about longevity. It's about cost. And people that sit there and they will, I mean, it's the whole concept of Payless shoes. Those Payless shoes are like less than $10. You know they're going to fall apart in less than a month,
But
but
they
you're
only
still going to
spent
come back and buy
$10 on it.
$10 shoes, and you're going to keep buying $10 shoes, and you keep buying $10 shoes until you sit there and you eventually spend more in the long run. It's not necessarily about planned obsolescence. It's about pay. And if people want to actually invest in a better product,
Okay, hold on. Do you believe planned obsolescence exists?
I do. But at the same time, I don't think it's the deciding factor
Deciding factor in what?
and what you pay for. Just because your product is supposedly going to die in 3-4 years doesn't mean you're not going to go out and buy something different because it's got a newer feature. That's the thing that I was trying to get to.
This is the problem, though. We know that this exists on higher end devices as well as lower end devices. It runs the gamut, all right? It's only there because in order to pay for all of this innovation and courage, we need fresh people to buy these phones. But the problem is, the major problem is that every single person has a smartphone now. Why do you think sales are slumping on phones?
Because these
people's-
products are built really well and there's no need
Yeah.
to buy new ones.
Right. So instead of spending so much money on releasing these new phones every single year, wouldn't it be better for them to spend the time to say, hey, we're going to build a device that's going to last you 2 years, and the 2 years later, we're going to build a much better device that's twice as powerful, maybe even 4 times as powerful, because usually a year later it's twice as powerful. And you get much better innovation and you get time to do it right.
So
Is that such a
basically what
bad
you're
thing?
saying is that because these companies have these year release cycles they choose to adhere to, that's the problem.
I'm saying that they have a limited amount of time to do all of this research to release all these new features for their customers. And unfortunately, there's not really a lot of innovation happening because there's just not time for it. We've hit a certain wall, especially with Intel chips, for instance, to where we just don't have the time or the ability to produce faster, smaller chips on the cycle that we're supposed to. Man, this conversation has really tapered off from where it originally started.
It's okay.
Yeah.
That's all of our conversations.
That's happened twice tonight. All right.
Yeah.
Basically, my point out of all of this is that I'd like to see companies take a little bit more responsibility for their shit. Like if you're going to produce a product, you're producing a product that's basically encompassing your entire company, what it reflects your company to be. So honestly, could we get rid of the cheaper shit? Sure. But my point being is I'd really like to see, man, it's getting really distracting with all the Slack notifications going off right now.
What would you like to see?
I would just like to see some sort of program that incentivizes you holding onto your stuff instead of just
swapping
throwing
it
it
out.
away.
I
Ooh,
agree.
You mean
with
that
Or
you
having
trade-in
it-
program that a
standpoint.
lot of these companies have?
Well-
Say that again?
You mean that trade-in program a lot of companies have?
Okay.
Like Best Buy?
How much is your phone worth at the end of 1 year?
Probably at least half, if not more.
Right. How much did you pay for your phone?
Less than that.
How much did you pay for your phone?
Well, with the subsidized version of the plan that I've done, like $200.
Okay. So if you were to trade in your phone today, you would probably get what, $200?
Pretty close.
Pretty close. Okay. What if I bought my phone outright?
Okay.
I just been shafted.
Yeah,
Yep,
you
basically.
So, and
So,
I
so
have to
basically,
say,
you're mad because you chose a different, better financial.
no,
version.
I'm saying because subsidized phone plans are going the way of the fucking dinosaur. You are on a grandfathered plan that's going away. I hate to say it.
Yes.
That's the way of the future. We're no longer going to have these 2-year contracts. In fact, most companies have basically declared war on the 2-year
Except for
contracts.
Verizon.
Right, because they
No,
don't get as
that's
much money that way.
I hate to break it to you, Kevin.
I know
it's
it's
already
happening.
happening.
I know.
It's already happening.
Right. No, and we're not debating whether or not it's not going to end up happening. The thing is, though, is that, as the industry gets to that point where, you have a tipping point, these trade-in programs will value these phones more just so they can continue getting their business.
It's an interesting point, and I would really like to talk more about this, but I feel like we're going to keep running around in circles.
Probably.
Yes. So hold on. What about the idea that our producer is putting up? What about a lease? What if the phone isn't yours? You were only using it, and you turn it in at the end of the period for when you get a new one.
But that's the thing, though. As Americans, especially the older generation, they believe in ownership versus leasing, which is, what at what point are we going to say, is it really worth owning all these things, or are we just going to spend a little extra money to rent it?
Personally, I don't see an issue with leasing. If
I
can
don't
get
either personally, but I'm just saying, like, the generations before us, they believed in ownership, which is why with the housing market, you had so many people that believed in buying a house versus leasing a house.
I think a house is a
Our
little
generation's
different.
more like, okay, you know what? Why would we want the responsibility of having to pay for all that's cost of ownership? Which
Older
is where we're going
generations-
to in the phone market, where is it more economical to own, or is it more economical to lease?
older generations don't understand shit about technology, therefore they should have no opinion about technology.
Damn.
That's
Damn,
very
Jeff.
true.
Okay.
I'm just gonna fucking say it. We all know it. It's all true. Older generation, if you're listening, I apologize. Not sorry.
You
Anyways,
can't say that and say I apologize. That's like, no.
Well,
I'm being anti.
He doesn't apologize.
that's-
He's just sad that he had to say it so roughly.
that's kind of like what I'm looking at right now. Older generations don't understand some stuff. For instance, I'm looking at buying a new vehicle, possibly. Vehicle I'm looking at, used 4-door truck. It's starting off anywhere from $25,000 to $45,000 for a used vehicle.
And that's with 90, 100,000 miles.
Exactly. The $45,000 vehicle is with 50,000 miles on it. The reasoning why
Right.
is because the cost of these vehicles are just so damn. A brand new truck is almost the price of a fucking house,
It really is.
and it's ridiculous that I have, for instance, like I'm talking it over with my parents, and my dad's like, "Well, I bought my first car for $200." Well, that's bloody fucking da. But your $200 back then lasted a fuck ton more than my $2,000 now.
Right. Well, you also got to remember, Kevin, that's the price of innovation, because with all the laws that went into effect, they had
Hey,
to
you
spend
weren't
more
allowed to
money.
say
You know
innovation
what?
again,
Hold on,
David.
Hold on. I apologize.
They had to spend more money on creating technology to make it more safe for the earth.
I apologize. You're not allowed to use innovation for at least 2 podcasts.
No, it's gonna happen. Just let it go, Kevin or Jeff. I mean
Jeff.
Kevin. I mean Jeff.
No, you know what? Just for that, it's now 3 podcasts.
Nope.
Don't make me move
Yeah,
you.
you
I
can't
will.
make me not say my words.
And
My
I call
words.
bullshit on
I speak in
innovations,
English.
and I'm doing my
Don't
air
move 'em,
quotes here,
Kevin.
not like Jeff. I'm doing my air quotes here. But there aren't that many innovations. Yes, granted, there's been some emission changes. Yes, granted, there's been more safety changes, but those are insignificant costs. It's because they can. And it's because
No. It's because it's more expensive to make, because people have to get paid.
to an extent, yes.
Give me
but
an example.
No, there's no to an extent.
Give me
No.
an
Okay.
example.
No, the costs really are irrelevant, because when you're selling 100,000 or millions of copies of it, what are your costs going into it? $1 million? You sell 1 million of them, that's only $1 more per piece.
Exactly. When you mass produce these items, your cost does not increase that much. It's your greed that increases the cost or increases the price. It's these companies becoming greedy, and now they can charge all this. Just
Yeah,
like
because there's people buying them.
because there is no choice.
Yeah, there is. You can get a Yaris.
My fat ass in a Yaris? No,
yeah,
thank you.
Bitch, you better squeeze.
David, who had a Yaris?
I was just saying, you better squeeze, motherfucker. No, but that's what I'm saying. No, there are alternatives. Do you choose a truck? Absolutely.
I need a truck.
No, you don't need a truck. You can walk. You can ride a bike. You can get a motorcycle. You don't have to have a truck. That's the thing, though. That's what you're getting mad at.
If I get a motorcycle, I gotta have a truck.
And you decided you have to have a truck, so therefore you have to pay for it.
All right, I think on that note, because we're again talking.
We're
in
ranting
circles.
off here.
This is not a car podcast.
This is
No.
not. But
Fourth podcast
in the future.
No.
I think that should be David and I's podcast.
Top Gear.
What?
The return.
Um,
All right.
Top
Anyways,
inspector. No.
thank you guys so much for listening. We really appreciate it as always. If you're not already a subscriber, you can find us on our new home at rantingmedia.com. All you have to do is hover over listen now, and we are the Gadget Inspectors. I have been your co-host, Jeff Stevens. Tonight I have with me my other co-host, Mr. David Feldman.
I'm still not quite sure what the hell we inspected, but yeah, bye everybody.
And of course, our special guest is Mr. Michael Fritz.
Innovation.
God damn it, Michael!
Michael's treading on thin ice over there. And Mr. Kevin
Yes,
Nelson.
good job, Michael.
Michael stole my line, so I'm gonna go off in the corner and die again.
Oh,
Poor Kevin.
I was still gonna use that too.
well, you heard it here first.
night, everybody.
Kevin's dead again. Good night,
Good
everybody.
night.
How very innovative of him.
And on that bombshell, good night.
Oh, he's
Good night.
sad now.
User in your channel stopped recording.
3 podcasts, David. 3 podcasts.
Yeah, no, it's not gonna happen.
But let's talk about the innovation that
No, what's gonna end up
Samsung
happening
brought
is Jeff,
today.
I'm just gonna sit there and say innovation like every other word, and then Jeff's gonna have to re-edit my edit, and you just hear me
No.
say it like this. So
Innovation, innovation.
Apple's so blank, and you should put the beep.
No, even worse, you just go
Yeah, I like that idea.
just constantly.
Also, David, you're a little behind the times. They don't hide behind innovation anymore. They hide behind